today. JenSeregos, did I pronounce that right?
Seregos.
Seregos is a serial entrepreneur and founder and lead strategist of Athena Digital, a boutique performance marketing agency based in Boulder, Colorado. Jen founded the agency with a client-first philosophy after observing business struggles at larger agencies that prioritize their own scale over client results. She remains hands-on with every audit, strategy engagement, focusing on paid media, conversion rate optimization, and email marketing. She's also the founder of JenSeregos.ai, where she consults with businesses on how to leverage AI to grow smarter. She's a vocal advocate for integrating AI into marketing workflows to improve efficiency and ROI. Her work has primarily supported e-commerce brands looking to scale through data-driven advertising and performance creative. Unlike many agencies that hand off accounts to junior staffers, Jen ensures that every account at Athena Digital receives senior level oversight. She is also known for a rigorous audit process that analyzes historical data to identify wasted spend before launching new campaigns. Jen, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Let's go. Well, I know I walked through your bio a little bit, but maybe you could take us back and give us a little bit of context. So where'd you grow up? What'd you study? And how'd you get into the world of marketing and AI and all the fun stuff you get to do?
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's a winding road. I'll give you the Cliffs Notes, but the journey started in college. I started my first company in college. I started a personal training business. So while I was studying in school, I drove around to people's houses. I ran ads in the local newspapers, and I got to design how my ad looked. And I had a friend of mine from high school. I'm from Carmel, California. If anybody knows where that is, it's the most beautiful place.
Yeah.
It's great golf, great weather, beautiful beaches, beautiful sand. And I had a good friend of mine, Kyle Jones, who I went to high school with. He was just an artsy guy. I said, hey, I got to run some ads and I need a photo. Will you take some photos of me out on the beach doing push-ups for my fitness business? And that's how I got started with marketing and ads. And the ads worked. I got calls, I got clients, and I was able to basically pay for my entire education myself with my business. Yeah, and my personal training business was doing so well that when I graduated from college, I didn't have to go looking for a job. I just had my business and I kept doing that for a few years. Ultimately, though, I was maybe in my mid to late 20s, and I realized I didn't want to be trading hours for dollars for the rest of my life. And I knew something had to change, and I didn't want to be in my 50s, driving around to people's houses, counting reps. It was fine for college in my early 20s, but I was starting to mature, starting to want more, out of my life, and started to get more ambitious. So I went back to school and got a post-grad degree in epigenetics over there at Stanford, and learned how to create bespoke programs for folks based on their genetic makeup. So it was, hey, based on your genes, you're more susceptible to these types of things. Here's some lifestyle changes that you can make to help optimize your longevity. And now that, we're talking 20 years ago.
So that space is like exploding right now with AI and everybody kind of taking their health under their own control and being able to learn more about their blood work or, pre-pregnancy, stuff like that.
100%. Yeah. And so I think maybe I was a little early to market with that. All the same, it was a phenomenal experience. And I transitioned from just personal training to having an online wellness and coaching business where I looked at people's genetic test results. I would send them the kit, to get the test, and then I'd get the results. I'd plug that into a SNP program that I had back in the day, and everything's way, way better now. But I did that for a few years, and I got burnt out doing that. And then I had a brief stint doing some real estate stuff. And in all of this, the one thread was I like entrepreneurship. I love business. I love the game. I live for looking at pipelines, analyzing trends, looking at data, being strategic. And as a serial entrepreneur at this point, I was in my third business by then. I decided to get really ambitious and create a digital health startup. And I brought on a technical co-founder, and I was every week, 2-3 nights a week, commuting up to Silicon Valley, doing pitch nights and meeting with VCs. And we got raised a seed round. And again, I think just too early to market. And I was young and I didn't know what I didn't know, but we crashed and burned, ran out of our runway. And it is what it is. You know what I mean? So we closed up shop. But the idea behind our business was we were aggregating health and medical data. So we were basically plugging into EHR systems, electronic health record systems from multiple hospitals. We had about 50 beta testers on our platform. So we actually had something, but it just the extra push that we needed to get over the hump and start getting revenue, just we didn't have the runway we needed to get there. So I learned a lot from that experience. I ended up going to Texas and working at a startup for a few months and had a midlife crisis in Texas, got rid of everything I owned and just drove north from Dallas in my car with my dog. I only kept what I could fit in my Subaru. And I drove all up to Colorado and spent 3 months just driving around, sleeping in my car with my dog. We went to the Grand Tetons, Arches National Park. I mean, we went all over. It was amazing. One of the best experiences of my life, and ended up falling in love with Boulder, Colorado. So I moved to Boulder and met my now husband there and started Athena Digital, my digital marketing agency that I now have, and started getting homesick. And so we've recently, over the last year and a half, relocated back home to California. So now I'm back in the Monterey Bay.
Let's go.
Yeah. So it's been great. Just didn't, living at 9,000 feet, it's hard on the body.
Oh yeah, whenever I haven't been to Denver or kind of that area since pre-COVID, but I used to go there at least once a quarter, to pitch agencies and go to like Crispin Porter and some of the famous agencies that were located in that area. And yeah, it's like a whole nother level living at that elevation, or go to Park City and places like that. It's definitely, if you're from sea level in California, that can definitely have an effect on you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I went to Colorado to be a snowboard bum, and I scratched the itch for 6 years. I got 6 seasons. I got into backcountry. I got split boards set up now. And one day I was like, I don't want to do snow anymore. I want to go home.
Well, it sounds like the common thread of your early career is you were, really obsessed on figuring out how to find customers for your businesses and using marketing and advertising and technology as a way to kind of, like really learn it from the ground up and be able to be a practitioner of marketing within these small businesses. Is that what you think led to starting your agency?
I'd love to tell you that is the case, but Athena Digital was a business by accident.
Interesting.
I was just a lost soul in a lot of ways. My mom had passed from cancer, and she was the glue in the rock. Thank you. She was the glue that held me and our family together. And when I lost her, I think I lost a piece of myself. And I think that's part of why I just drove around for 3 months. You know what I mean? And Athena Digital found me. I did not find Athena Digital. I was a serial entrepreneur. I was really good at marketing by this point. I had run a lot of advertising campaigns, spent a lot of money, and made a good amount too. And I just started getting people interested in getting my advice on how to run meta ads, because that's where my expertise took me. And one thing led to another. And before I knew it, I had clients, and I just was like, well, heck, I'm just going to start a business. And I'm Greek. Seregos is Greek. And I love my heritage. I love my culture. And I thought, well, the Greek goddess Athena, the goddess of strategy and wisdom, seemed like a good fit. Got an owl logo, and there we were. There I was. And I had, maybe three to five. I think I want to say I had maybe 3 or 5 clients when I started, just people I was helping out who had small businesses. And it was completely and totally by accident. It was because I had a skill and not because I had a passion.
Wow.
Having been having started a couple of companies and kind of, waffled around and shut them all down and started a new one and I realized that I didn't have my purpose yet. I didn't have my passion yet. And Athena Digital was a stepping stone, I believe, to where I am now with AI. And now I have a purpose. I have a passion. I believe that this technology is the single most important thing that has happened in my lifetime, if not generations of lifetimes. And I want to be a part of that. And I want to use it for good. And so I finally, after 20 years of being in a professional setting and having multiple businesses, finally now feel like I actually really, really am truly committed and passionate about what I'm doing and the work that I'm doing. I can analyze a funnel with my eyes closed all day long and tell you what's wrong with it in 2 seconds and tell you what to do to fix it. And it's a gift and it's a passion, a skill, but the AI and how it's changing our landscape, not only culturally and socially, but professionally and in the workplace. That's something I'm really, really excited about. So
Very cool. I'd be curious, as somebody who's been an expert at Meta and has seen, the evolution of the platform from when it was kind of, easy money in the early days,
oh yeah, the good
before
old
like
days.
iOS 14 and stuff like that. But now, kind of the, Meta is moving to having less customer service, making their campaign setup process kind of very easy. It doesn't take, it doesn't take experts the way that it used to. It's kind of like made to be very simple and for, kind of generalist marketers to be able to go in and set up a campaign. And with Advantage Plus, they're just pushing everybody to the idea of like letting their algorithm optimize, and do all the heavy lifting for you. Mark Zuckerberg had a famous, address where he said, eventually we think that, you won't even have to put creative in. You'll just have to swipe your credit card and let the algorithm do the rest. I'd be curious as a Meta expert, what are your thoughts on kind of how the platform is evolving and moving and trying to take, more and more humans out of the loop and having, less and less custom, like there's big agencies that spend millions of dollars now that don't even have a assigned Meta rep. Just be curious on kind of how you see the platform evolving from an ads perspective.
For sure. I'm for it. And this is coming from someone who owns a digital marketing agency and has done advertising on the platform for a living for 6 years. I think in my experience, the majority of agencies out there are not very good. There's surprise, surprise. I think as with any industry that doesn't have a lot of regulation, financial, healthcare, environmental, these industries have a lot of regulation. You have to be at a certain level in order to operate in the industry. Marketing, advertising is not that. And it's a bit of the Wild West in the industry itself. And there aren't a whole lot of pre-qualifications for calling yourself a marketing expert or an advertising expert. And I can't tell you every single sales call I did, and I did hundreds, if not thousands of them over the years. The number one thing I heard, and this I heard from pretty much every single call I was on, was, well, my last agency sucked. They handed me off to some junior person, and I got bounced around with 5 different people managing my account. Half the time, I didn't even know if it was working. I didn't get attribution. I was constantly in the dark, and right? You probably know the story. I'm sure you've heard the story too. Every single person listening who has an experience, either on the inside of a marketing agency or on the outside paying one, knows this story. And I don't think, I think marketing is a skill. I think it is equal parts creativity and data analytics. So it's equal parts right brain, left brain. And I think to really truly build a company that's going to stand the test of time and be profitable in the long term and have good margins and be a healthy company, I think the leadership needs to own the messaging. And however that trickles down into an ads manager, an external ads manager, a contractor, an agency, whatever, is one thing. But the messaging needs to come from the top down. And oftentimes with SMBs, they would say, do all my marketing. You do the ad copy, you do the creative, you do everything. And a lot gets lost between a vision of a founder and what they want their business to be, and someone, 6 generations removed doing an ad campaign. Do I think that Meta is going to solve that problem with AI? I don't think so in the near term, but I think in the long term, it will eventually get there. And I think that's a good thing, because then it's a much shorter distance between the person putting the ads into the ads manager versus owner, vision, VP, and so on and so forth. And then 10, 20, 30, 40 people removed are the ones actually launching the campaigns. So I think in the long run, it's going to be a good thing. I'm seeing on my end, I'm still doing ads. They're just as complicated as they've been, because now you need to compete against everyone else that are running on Advantage Plus in the marketplace that you're in. So your ad creative better be freaking on point, and your ad copy is amazing, and you better know how to speak directly to the people that you want to speak to and compel them to take action in one way or the other. So having an automated advertising channel doesn't change the fact that your marketing needs to be on point. I think those are two different things that need to be separated out, right? Saying, here's my brand kit, here's all my images, here's my messaging, and just having an algorithm decide how to configure that to get the right message to the right person at the right time. Great. Fantastic. But somebody still needs to do the hard work of who's my target market, what is my messaging, and how am I going to communicate that to the outside world? And
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, we're kind of in this emergence right now, or probably knee deep in it, of the idea of like the founder led brand, direct consumer companies, even B2B companies, really being dependent on a charismatic founder who can pop open the camera and do a vertical video 2 or 3 times a day, document their entrepreneurial journey. The idea that millennials and Gen Z want to buy from people, they don't want to buy from companies, and they want to support, our obsession with like Shark Tank and entrepreneurship, which you've kind of lived out. Sorry, my camera's, I'm gonna switch to a different camera.
See, you were frozen, but it's all good.
Yeah,
I can hear you.
it's all good. There's this kind of, if a founder can be the face of their campaign and speak to their audience and be charismatic and make an appeal to what their value proposition or the why and what they're doing, seems to be kind of an unfair advantage these days against either founders who are not willing to do that, or are camera shy, or like you said, want to focus on the operations of their business and don't want to be as involved in marketing. How do you coach your clients these days with this, emerging trend of the founder-led brand, and really needing creative from, the brand that is human and kind of looks and feels like creator culture, at least as it pertains to like social media marketing?
Yeah, I don't think that is a one size fits all. I don't think every company should rely on a founder-led, founder forward facing environment. And I don't think it makes sense for every single company to be in that demographic. I think every founder is different, every company is different. And I think every founder needs to find their voice and find what they want their company to represent, how they want people to feel when they see their company's logo. And if they want to be the center of that, then great. That's going to work for them. But if they're not super keen on being in front of the camera, but they've got a great idea and they've got a moat and they have something to share with the world, well, then they should be able to do that without needing to get in front of the camera. That's my personal opinion. And so I don't think that it's one or the other. I think it's both and.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think, both are probably valid strategies, but both have a place in the ecosystem. So before we popped on the camera, we were talking a little bit about, how obsessed you are with AI right now and building your company in partnership with AI. I think it was important. You said AI is not replacing, teams and what you're doing, but it's a partnership. How are you thinking about AI, leveraging it, building business processes and automating things through AI that has been transformative to the way you operate a boutique agency?
AI has changed my life in all the best ways possible, not just professionally, but personally too. I built an AI tennis coach for myself. I've built a nutrition coach. I've built many personal apps that I use. So that's on the personal side, right? On the professional side, I basically broke my entire company, Athena Digital, and rebuilt it with AI.
Wow.
And I became completely obsessed with the technology, so much so that I've started my own new AI business completely separate from Athena Digital. And I've, in a lot of ways, stepped away from Athena Digital. As I was saying earlier, it was more of a means to an end versus a passion that I had. It just was a skill set. I'm good at marketing. Who knew? But the real passion underneath why I'm good at marketing is because I'm really excited and passionate about bringing a vision to life, whether it's my vision, my client's vision, a friend's vision. I love being the engine and the execution and the strategic arm behind bringing a vision to life. And AI has helped me make that possible in record time and without the pocketbook of an enterprise corporation. I now have an entire AI operating system running all three of my businesses with me and for me. I have a chief of staff named Jarvis, who I route all of my workflow through, who then delegates to all of my other sub agents on my team, marketing agents, sales agents, ops agents, analytics agents, etc. I even have an AI executive assistant named Iris who does all my scheduling for me now, sends out calendar invites, will email people who are interested in meeting with me, give them my availability, interact with them, and then send them a calendar invite with the location, whether it's virtual, in person, etc. And this is getting me, I'm so excited about this that I am not a developer and an engineer. That is not my trade. I get up at 4 a.m. and I'm on Claude code building. I'm totally obsessed.
What do they call that? Vibe coding?
Yes.
I love it.
Yes. And I'm
Yeah.
building products for myself and for my team and for my clients. And now we're architecting. And here's the thing that I'm really passionate and excited about. I'm excited about helping mid-market and enterprise companies own their infrastructure. A lot of these companies are buying SaaS tools and bolting them on top of their stack. And what they're not realizing is that with AI now and a good engineering team, which I have, thankfully, we can build proprietary architecture systems inside their organization that they now own, and that improves the value of the company. There's IP. So here's an example for, say, a healthcare system with an emergency room. We can build a translation system where people checking in who don't speak English, don't have English as a native language, no need for a translator anymore. You just check in, you go through the AI, Q&A, and that's now all proprietary architecture that the hospital now owns as part of the value of the hospital. Now they're no longer paying translation services. Wait times are cut down. And they now have care coordinators going back to doing what they were originally supposed to be doing, which is helping patients. So there's a lot of good that comes from thinking through strategically how to leverage the technology to make your business more efficient and do more good in the world.
I love that. And I wanted to drop back to what you mentioned about the tennis coach thing, because it's actually, you're the second kind of AI practitioner that I've talked to. I talked to another guy a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a couple of weeks ago, who said he built an app for himself that helped him lose 50 pounds. And then he also coded like a business card, virtual business card software while he was headed to a networking event, because he didn't have one or he hadn't downloaded one before. Like while he was driving, he was coding this, on Claude or something like that. So I'm curious, like, do you think that will be a trend moving forward, where people aren't just thinking about, building these proprietary software applications for, for professional use, but they're actually thinking about it for personal use or personal productivity or personal, habit forming, like things like exercise, or what you were talking about, I think is really interesting. So just be curious, about your experience there.
In my experience, more people are using AI, LLM, basic, ChatGPT, Claude, those kinds of services. In my experience, more people are using them for personal reasons than professional ones.
Wow.
In my experience, there is a huge gap and disconnect between leadership and employees. Leadership seems to be pretty excited about AI. Employees are less so. And I actually have just recently published an article with the data to back this up, if anybody wants to read it and geek out on the numbers. But leadership teams that were interviewed said they, on average, thought around 76% of employees were excited about AI in the workforce. When the employees were interviewed, only 31% actually were excited about AI in the workforce.
Interesting.
There is a negative sentiment, and I believe that sentiment is doing a lot of harm and disservice to our country and to our ability to compete on a national level. And I think people are afraid that job loss is going to happen on a existential scale. But I think what people are missing is the bigger, broader picture of this. And Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, talks about this very eloquently, and I will paraphrase what he said. But essentially, a few years ago, when AI started to emerge more on the the mainstream, if you will,
Yep.
there was a huge movement. People said, don't become a radiologist. AI is going to take over radiology. We will have no need for radiologists. Don't go to radiology school. And they were right. AI does a better job of reading a scan than a human does. But here's the thing. We now have a shortage worldwide of radiologists. Because, yes, the AI can read the scan better. Yes, it can do that. But that doesn't replace patient care, separating the task, reading the scan, from the job, diagnosing, coordinating between the patient and other physicians, specialists, and so on. So now we have a problem where we need more radiologists, because everybody was told, don't go to radiology school. And they didn't, they listened. And now we have a shortage, right? So I think we are doing ourselves a disservice when we don't embrace the technology in the workforce. And that's something I'm very deeply passionate about, and I think is very important work.
Yeah, I love that. I keep talking about this case study that I heard about at the Possible conference last week, which is IKEA. IKEA was able to automate and free up about 5,000 customer service agents that they had, that were basically answering phone calls and answering emails and chatbot conversations around, how to build balsa wood furniture. Like when people, open up their IKEA box and they can't quite figure things out, they would call into these call centers and try and get help and fix it. And AI does a better job at that than, people on the phone or on chatbots, talking to people about this. And it wasn't, very meaningful work. It was repetitive. It was the same. Like, that's something that I see emerging over and over, is like things that are associated with FAQs, where people call in or have the same questions over and over and over and over, and you do the same job over and over, day in, day out. Those are actually the things where AI can automate the best and also free up human capital. And IKEA didn't fire those 5,000 customer service agents. They retrained them to be interior designers.
Fantastic.
They put them on the floor of IKEA showrooms, which resulted in more sales, but also an entire new line of business, which is essentially the IKEA, interior designer profession. And it's like now it's unlocked a new revenue stream for them, and also had an impact on sales, because human beings can be where they're supposed to be, not in a call center, but on the showroom floor, interacting with customers, helping them make design decisions, which maybe AI isn't quite there, because design is still based on aesthetic, and it's not always something that a machine can. AI doesn't have taste, is something that I keep hearing, and maybe it will in the future. But I think you're right. I think there's a tremendous amount of fear around AI, both micro, or which is what's it going to do to my job, and is my job still going to be relevant? But people miss out on the idea that there's still a human component in things like radiology, customer service, whatever. And I think you're right that companies probably need to do a better job in communicating, not only to their customers, but also to their their employee brand, if you will, on what their plans are, essentially.
100%. Yeah.
Awesome. So, a lot of your work, primarily in the agency space, has supported e-commerce brands. Be curious, how do you see AI changing the shopper experience, especially with the rollout of agentic? I think we're probably not too far off if we're willing to allow Uber or Instacart to go shopping on our behalf. There's probably a world in which we're going to allow agents to go shopping on our behalf. And I believe that that's going to start in commoditized things, things that we don't really care as much about the brand. Toilet paper, organic milk, like maybe we care about brand, but a lot of times we care about, base utility and cost. How do you think agentic commerce is going to have an impact on, e-commerce brands in the near future?
Well, it's already having an impact, and you can already have an agent shop for you.
Wow.
Claude has in their Chrome extension, you can actually have the Chrome extension Claude agent buy gifts for your family for their birthday while you're off playing tennis, snowboarding, whatever it is that you want to be doing. So it's actually already here. And OpenAI, I'm sure everybody listening knows that OpenAI is now doing their ad side of their chat interface. And it is going to 100% impact e-commerce. I think it's going to make shopping easier and even more accessible than it already is. It's going to make Amazon seem difficult, I think, in the future, because you're going to have your personal agent, whether it's on your phone or your projection device that is, in your head or something, and you'll just think to yourself or say, oh man, I really need to buy a tent for camping for 2 weeks. Hey, get the best tent you can buy for under $500. And it'll do all the research and it'll tell you, these are the 3 best picks. Here's why. Here's the price points. Which one do you want me to get? And I'll just say, yeah, I think I want that one. That sounds like a good one. I need it to be delivered by Thursday of next week, so I have it in time to take it out, put it together, make sure it works before I go camping the following week. or, I'm making that up, but it's 100% going to make online shopping infinitely easier, if it's not already easy enough as it is. But, with consumerism as it stands in our society, the faster you can get from idea to purchase, that's the name of the game in e-commerce. I always told my clients in e-commerce, the path of least resistance. Every single click you make your customer do, you're less likely to get them to buy from you. So everything needs to be streamlined and easy. So yeah, it's gonna make shopping online a lot easier.
Yeah, I feel like for a long time, people have tried to emulate these, iconic thought leaders like Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, guys that traditionally like tried to outsource small decisions so they could focus on the big ones, or kind of like the more meaningful decisions. So, Steve Jobs, notoriously known for wearing like the same thing so he didn't have to make decisions when he went into his closet. And, he just had the jeans, the black turtleneck, and like the same look and the same vibe. Do you think agents will be able to replicate taste, the way that a personal shopper could, or, will they be able to know like what you like, what your style is, what your brand loyalty is? Will they be able to translate from easier shopping decisions like the utility of ordering a tent or restocking the toilet paper to more complex decisions, which, fashion at least is like an expressive of who you are and your personality? Do you feel like it'll be able to transition to those more complex purchasing behaviors?
Oh yeah, and it already is. So I actually built for myself a custom fashion, I would call it a chatbot. I would not call it an agent. It's not buying for me. So it's not an agent. It doesn't act autonomously. I still control it. I ask it questions. But I programmed my bot so that it knows my style. It knows what clothes I already have. It knows what colors I like. It has a picture of me in like a form-fitting workout outfit, so it knows what my body shape is, so it can discern what types of clothes are going to look best and be most flattering based on my body shape. So it's here. It's doing it. And it's only a matter of time before it starts recommending things to buy. It already is. It already can if I wanted it to. I just haven't done that because I have a shit ton of clothes that I don't wear.
Yep.
So I was like, just help me wear what I already own, please. Like, I do not need to buy more clothes because I used to wear the same, like Steve Jobs. And truth be told, I'm in my Viore sweatpants right now doing this interview with you. So, I'm still not wearing my really nice clothes as much as I probably could be. I get a lot of tax deductions from Viore for business.
I love it.
Yeah, it's here, Dylan. I'm already using AI. I told AI last week, I went to a fundraiser. It was a glitzy glam fundraiser in Spanish Bay at Pebble Beach. I went to my ChatGPT bot and I said, I'm going to this thing. Here's what it's all about. Here's what we're doing. Here's the theme. What should I wear? I put on a dress, took a picture of myself in the dress, sent it to ChatGPT, and it said, no.
Interesting.
This screams summer luncheon. This is not an evening gala fundraiser dress. Wear the black cocktail dress. So I took off the white dress. I put on the black dress. I showed it a picture and it went, yes, that's the one. Now you look like you belong at a gala, an evening gala. And it's been so helpful. So yeah, it's here. It's doing it. I'm living proof that you can improve your wardrobe and how you dress and present yourself if you want to. And if you don't care, that's okay too. But for me, I'm in the public a lot. I do a lot of public speaking and things like that. So I made the conscious decision to actually put more effort into what I wear, how I present myself, and things like that. And it's been extremely helpful.
I bet. That's really cool. So you've often evangelized an audit-first approach to, working with clients that analyze historical data, identify waste before launching new campaigns. I feel like a lot of agencies aren't willing to put that kind of rigor into like the pre-sale process and really, kind of understand, like, they don't want to do that type of stuff until they're being paid and engaged. How important is an audit first approach to working with clients to really be able to not only, look and see what they've done historically, but actually come to them and say, hey, these are improvements that I think that can be made, and kind of put skin in it in the upfront process.
The audit first approach is not only for the client's best interests, it's for our best interests, to be totally candid. I need to do a full audit because I want to see if I think that this account is even an account that we can do something for and with, right? We need to look under the hood and we need to make a judgment call. Can we improve this account? Can we get their money's worth? Can we make them feel value from paying us to come in here and do this? Or can we not? And that you have to do an audit to make that judgment call. You can't go into after an hour-long meeting with somebody and know enough about their business and their business performance, especially on an ads campaign or multiple campaigns, multiple accounts, multiple channels. It's impossible to know after one meeting talking to a founder or a leader if you can actually help them or not. You need to look under the hood. I mean, that would be like going to the mechanic and saying, fix my car, without looking and doing the diagnostic to figure out what's wrong with the car. I mean, and I get a lot of agencies want to be paid for the diagnostic work because it does take effort. So we've done something with Athena Digital where for really complex audits that are multi-channel, we're talking hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in ad spend on a monthly basis. Those types of audits we now charge for, and then we just deduct the cost if we decide to work together.
That's cool. That's a good model. So it's kind of like, you get paid for the audit, and then it's almost like a rebate if you decide to work together.
Exactly. So everybody's got skin in the game. And for smaller audits, if it's a one channel audit, if you're only spending, $10,000 a month, that we can take a look at that for you and let you know if we think we can move the needle, right? So my big thing is transparency in business. That's very important, and there's not enough of it. And all of our pricing is on our website. Everything is right there. Everybody knows how we operate. And the audit is an essential first step in identifying, number one, if we can even help this company in the first place. Most of the time we think we can, because, I alluded to earlier, there's a lot of bad ad managers out there. So generally speaking, we find things that are, can be improved. But it's important for the client too. If you're spending a couple $100,000 a month in ads, you should be willing to pay for an audit. You should want to pay for an audit to see what is actually going on and get an expert subset of eyes that are objective and not internal, looking at the account, telling you the good, the bad, and the ugly.
So with so much of ad spend and marketing starting to being automated by AI, a lot of the technical side of ad management, what do you think is the most valuable human skill for a strategist as more and more of the grunt work processes becomes automated?
Number one, it's not there yet. We are still very busy running ads. The platforms are not plug and play yet. So we are still in the trenches figuring out whether or not we layer interest audiences on top of a Advantage Plus, whether or not a lookalike audience makes sense for this account based on the data. So there's still a lot of data analytics and administrative work that goes into running and managing an ad account well. That said, to answer your question, where the value comes beyond the management, once that does get offloaded to AI, which it will, the real value is in having a partner who understands marketing, who can communicate with you and strategize with you and come up with the creative aspects of a campaign that an AI can't do at the level that a human can do yet. And I also believe nothing replaces, to your point, having a conversation with somebody, having that energetic exchange, and having that rapport, and a person knowing intimately what a founder, what a leader is needing and wanting, coming up with a pivot when it's appropriate, strategizing big picture, small picture, etc. I think there's always going to be a need for a human to help with judgment calls. That's just essential.
There's been a lot of talk about platform diversity, brands getting too heavy in a single channel. We know that during the iOS 14 collapse, there were companies that were put out of business completely because they were too reliant on Meta or a single channel. How do you help advise clients to have platform diversity in their marketing mix? And how do you make inferences of like what channel to test next and go into when they've got a limited budget, something's working, but they want to add additional scale?
Great question. I actually have a recent personal experience with this. We have a client. I have been begging them to diversify and get their email channel working. A multi-million-dollar company still using MailChimp, sending out newsletters once a month. Old school. And for 2 years, I've been once a quarter, I say, let's get you on Klaviyo. Let's get you running email campaigns. We can increase revenue by X%. We've shown the math, we've done the numbers, and they don't want to make a move. And I respect it. I have to be respectful of their decision. They own the business. Ultimately, it's their decision. But last month, their Meta account got hacked. And 40% of their revenue was lost overnight because the account got shut down.
Oof.
And I couldn't help but think, if we had had that Klaviyo up and running, this wouldn't have hurt so bad. So I would encourage every business owner and leader to diversify their portfolio, if you will. And generally speaking, I have metrics that I recommend. Generally speaking, it depends on the company and the industry, right? If we're still in the e-commerce, are we still kind of talking about e-commerce here, or just across the board?
Yeah, I think e-commerce is probably the most relevant, right? Where it's, you're very dependent on digital ads to continue to drive the funnel. And, you don't have the brick and mortar and some of the other channels that might give you a more diverse stream of revenue.
For sure. So here's what I recommend for an e-commerce company. Start with Meta. It's the cheapest, best advertising channel out there, even though it's a pain in the butt for every possible reason you can think of, including customer service. But that's another story for another podcast. Get Meta working. If you are spending $800 a day on Meta and you are consistently month over month hitting your KPIs, it's time to layer in Google. Once you get Google to about $500 a month in consistent KPIs, then you layer in the next channel, right? Bing or publication, influencer, podcast advertising, and so on. So that's how I think about the hierarchy for an e-commerce business. How does an e-commerce business scale? Start with Meta, get stabilized at $800 a day, then go to Google, get Google stabilized at $500 a day. Then you can start layering in auxiliary channels as it makes sense based on your vertical. If you're in fashion, you may want to choose a different path, different channel. Influencer marketing is obviously all the rage now, with the social media platforms, with TikTok and Instagram and so on. So it's important to have that presence, and it's important to diversify your acquisition channels for new customers. But at the end of the day, I think people get shiny object syndrome and they bounce around platforms too quickly before they get one working. You run a couple campaigns, you don't hit your KPIs, you think it's broken, it's not working, I got to find something else. And they abandon ship too quickly and they don't get the fundamental channel working. And obviously, I believe email should be at the top of that with Meta. You should be setting up a Meta or an email, whatever CRM you want to use, whatever email send tool you want to use, but get email going very early and regular emails. 30% of your revenue should come from email.
Wow. And like you said, that's a channel that you own that can't get hacked or can't get, it's not owned by an intermediary. It's not dependent on a third party.
Yeah. And you own the client. Now you have your client's contact information. I mean, I'm bewildered and baffled by companies that are Amazon only. I'm like, you don't own any of your customers. You have no idea how to reach them. You can't upsell them, cross-sell them, launch new products, everything. You're relying on a third-party vendor that now owns all of your customer data instead of you. That seems like a really risky play.
Yeah, I guess that trade-off for free shipping and instantaneous delivery is quite appealing, right?
Well, if you really want that, I recommend for our clients, pick a few products to have on Amazon and have some exclusivity, right? Pick and choose specific products, maybe your bestseller, your flagship product, throw that on Amazon so that you're, getting that. But with drop shipping and everything else, I mean, it's not a heavy lift and like, 3PL services and things like that. It's not a heavy lift for an e-commerce brand to be able to ship quickly. I mean, that shouldn't be a barrier, right? You shouldn't need Amazon to do that anymore in today's environment.
That's a good point. So going back to the conversation around performance creative, you've often emphasized that creative can either make or break a brand. How do you balance kind of the high polish brand aesthetic driven creative with the raw authenticity that comes from social content or influencer UGC? Is there a good mix that brands should be thinking about, do you think?
Yeah, I think that every company is unique and every company needs to treat themselves as such. And I think testing is always the answer. As a marketing professional, I think my clients probably hate this because they ask the same questions and my answer is also always the same. Let's test it. You have to test curated high-end photography, video, more UGC style content. You have to test all of it and see what works. And then you have to iterate what works, ditch the things that don't work, optimize the things that do work, and keep testing and testing and testing. I mean, that's a marketer's daily life in the market of a marketing professional is test, test, test. So I don't think it's one or the other. It never has been. It never will be. It's all of the above. And then you hone in on the signal, right? There are going to be signals. Okay, UGC works better for this brand. Let's double down on that. Let's test 5 different UGC hooks. Those kinds of conversations happen more so than, oh, we only want raw content because that's what we want. No, it can't be what you want. It has to be what your customers want.
What you need.
Yes.
I love it. Well, Jen, really appreciate you spending some time with us and the audience today. It sounds like what you're doing, both with your agency and the AI consulting stuff, is pretty exciting. It's a brave new world out there. If folks want to follow along with your thinking, stay in touch with your thought leadership, or connect, where do you want to send the audience?
For sure. I'm big on LinkedIn. That's kind of where I do most of my playing right now. So it's, I don't know my LinkedIn. It's like probably linkedin.com/JenSeregos would be my guess, or something like that. If you Google me, I'll probably pop up there. And
we'll link to it in the show notes.
Perfect. Yeah. And then I have a newsletter that I send out called The Signal, all about AI, how it's impacting businesses, how it's shaping the future. And if you're interested as a business owner, how to navigate the landscape now that AI is a big player in this, then I highly recommend going to my website, JenSeregos.ai, and signing up for the newsletter for sure.
Amazing. Well, thank you for spending some time with us today. And for those of you who are watching for the first time, don't forget to give us a follow or a subscribe. If you're listening to the show, a honest review on whatever podcast platform you might be listening on is how we find a larger audience organically. And if there's an e-commerce brand or maybe a business owner that's looking to leverage AI, transform their business, or just somebody who you feel like would benefit from the conversation that I had with Jen today, don't forget to share the show. And with that, I will thank you for coming on. Appreciate your insights, Jen. And thanks for spending some time with us today.
My pleasure.
See you soon. Bye-bye.